Welcome back, everyone, to the Sales Leaders Playbook podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. This is Nicola Lloyd. She's the president of Meducom Health and leads a team that delivers innovative medical communications for pharmaceutical brands. So with 15 plus years of experience, she's a strategic marketer known for turning complex ideas into clear, impactful solutions and building trusted partnerships. So super excited to have you here, Nicola. Thank you kindly for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So, you're running this lovely big business now, but why don't we just get right into it? Why don't you take us back to the beginning? What's the story of how you got started? What was your first real sale?
I was a pretty entrepreneurial kid, and so my mom was really supportive of all my wacky ideas. So when I was 9, I actually started a card making business in my basement, and found all these craft supplies and old greeting cards and repurposed them and turned them into new cards. Sold them all, probably mostly to my mom, who also paid for the supplies. So it was a super profitable business. The customers paying the cost of goods sold, so you can imagine how good that was. But I think that's where I got a taste for sales, and through every the ages, and every job I had certainly had like a customer service and sales element to it. But I would say when you ask about real sale in the context of the industry I'm in now, it definitely was back when I served a role as a director of business development, and focusing on selling medical communications to pharmaceutical clients. And so I think everyone really starts in that, when they truly get independent, everyone really starts with that low hanging fruit area of selling what we know to the people that we know. And that's definitely what the first sale that I can remember that I independently and successfully closed. And so it was, taking someone I was working with and expanding the work that we did from a promotional realm to the educational realm.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Awesome. So I wonder if that card making business had any effect on your marketing skills and creativity.
It very likely could. I'm not quite creative. I have a creative team behind me now. I just get to come up with some good ideas, and I have an amazing team who helps deploy. But every now and then, getting back to the arts and crafts can definitely be quite fun.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's great for your brain.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All right. So, looking at your business today, what does growth mean to you? And many people have different meanings of growth. Is it about revenue, market share, team size, or something else?
I think naturally, when you run a business, you look at all of those items, and it goes without saying, when you talk about growth or look at growth or assess growth, it's the first thing you look at is revenue and P&L. And not undermining that that's an important part of it. But then when you really kind of dig into what does growth mean for an organization, it's important to pair that with an operational lens, especially in my world. A medical communications agency is really only as good as its people, and it's the quality and service the team delivers that retains and grows a business. And so when we're successful in growing a business, what really excites me is grounding it back into the people, and that creates opportunity for promotions for the team who was successful, or expanding the team with great people, to continue to scale and deliver.
Totally. Yeah. You got to have the right tip players on the team, with bottom line. Definitely.
100%.
So, what is your vision for sales in your business for the next 3 to 5 years?
Goal setting is really baked into Meducom's core, and we have 1, 3, 5 year goals that we continuously set and assess, and that's an important part of the process. Our landscape changes and moves so fast, so we set goals and then we measure and assess. But really, it comes down to, I think, when we think of how do we achieve those goals, how do we work towards those goals, there's a really strong principle that I've always found, something that I come back to. And it says that, there's no steady state. You're either building momentum or you're losing momentum. And I think that really guides how we operate and how we chase our goals and our vision for the future. And Meducom has always operated as a very relationship driven strategic partner for our clients. We stay grounded in our core competencies, in the things we know we're good at, and we align that expertise with the needs of our clients. And so we can't stagnate our core competencies. We have to continuously seek to innovate them and bring novel opportunities for our client. But the pace of which we innovate has to stay aligned with the team's preparedness to deliver and deliver based on that expertise.
Mhm.
So that's where the vision is set toward is all the goals are aligned with that. We're going to deepen our relationships and continue to bring high quality work to our clients. But it's going to be the work that we know we're good at, and the new ideas that we bring are going to be things that we know we can deliver with expertise. And so
Mhm.
we differentiate on that, on our core competencies of scientific credibility, executional excellence, measurable impact, and that will stay as the guiding force and vision for Metricom.
Absolutely. So it's never stop improving, right? It's like that term Kaizen, uh,
Mhm.
always improving, always getting better, right?
Absolutely,
Cool.
absolutely.
Love it. So, in terms of lead generation, right? This is obviously a hot topic for B2B businesses. What is the biggest challenge that in terms of generating leads right now for you? And how would you say that's different from when you started?
Mhm. I think there's things that are the same and things that are different. What's the same is what interests people. And when you in every industry, in every business, you're trying to pair your offering with the need of your client. And so when you can do that, you'll have success. And that stays true till the end of time. And so that part is what we anchor ourselves with, but the how we do it, the how we go about it is really, really changed. So when you think of lead generation of trying to find new individuals to talk to, new prospective clients. You really want to get to the end result of pairing your offering with their needs, but to capture their attention is it's much more difficult now from 15 years ago when I started in this industry, where there's more information, more channels, more competition, more digital barriers to creating and informing relationships, and so you can't just do what's always been done and you can't just rely on the network that you have. And so I think what's needed is different approaches in terms of outreach. How do you do outreach in a way that cuts through the digital clutter? Not all of the opportunities of new technologies are beneficial because they've flooded the market with outreach. And so being able to stay human, stay credible, stay true to that value proposition that you're trying to create, and then pivot that an early kind of conversation to what makes us successful is human to human engagement.
Mm,
Get through the digital clutter and then get together with clients and talk, and that's how the best ideas and partnerships are formed.
absolutely, I totally agree. Like, back 10 years ago or so, people were just spamming with emails,
Yeah. Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of emails. And you know what? That worked
Mhm.
for a bit, but it stopped working. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't work anymore. So curious though, when you say human to human contact, totally agree, right? We're in the sales training industry. It's the conversations generally that you have that really leaves a big
Mhm.
impact. So what if you could just expand, like how are you developing leads? Is it through cold calling? Is it through paid advertisements, referrals? I'm sure
Mhm.
it's a mix of them. Where do you find that you have the most success in your industry or what's working right?
Mhm. So most of what we do is sort of outbound outreach through email and social channels. And then we engage a lot in person at Congress. We
Mm.
go to where our prospective clients are, and it's difficult to kind of door knock or cold call. There's just a lot of barriers to that, and so when you think of what's successful, I think it's showing something that might be of interest and then getting in front of a client quickly at a conference that they're already at, so it's easy for them to have a quick conversation with us, or those early kind of assessment type conversations that they might want to have.
Totally, yeah, the comeback of the
Mhm.
conference, right? We obviously
Mhm.
have that for a while. Now it's I agree, it's one of the best ways face to face, shaking hands,
100%.
demonstrating in real time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally agree, that's great. Alrighty, so now every business, right? I mean, your business is growing, it's successful, it's expanding, that's amazing. But every business has a messy middle. Like, could you be able
Mhm.
to share a time where, a deal or a new hire or a strategy, you put a lot of effort into it, planned it, thought it was going to be executed perfectly, but then it just didn't go as planned. And what'd you
Yeah.
learn from it?
Yeah, I think all three of those
Yeah.
will happen to everyone at some stage of their career, maybe some multiple times. And I mentioned previously we use innovation as a source of growth. And it's challenging because the pharmaceutical landscape is very highly regulated, as it should be. There's a lot of different stakeholders who buy into ultimately what you're trying to achieve, and express whether or not they feel like it stays within the boundaries of their domain.
Mhm.
And so a big part of what we do is, get in rooms with clients and strategize and talk about, okay, what's changed, what's next, how to keep pace with the evolving landscape in their therapeutic area. And over the years, there's been multiple times where we've, sat down and at a table, we've got this amazing idea. We all, we're all passionate about it. We're all bought into it. We think it really has the potential to improve healthcare outcomes and get the right patient to the right place. But then when you start to kind of bring stakeholder involvement in and different reviews and whatnot, it can die. And that really, really is difficult to kind of, keep your head up from, because I think when you're innovating, when you're truly innovating, you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable and not have a mindset of like, let's do something new, but keep it in the same format. That's not innovation. Innovation, really, really stalls when there's limited thinking. And so the challenge there is how do you keep tinkering? How do you keep, evolving it and not giving up on those ideas until you can finally break through and make something of it. But when they stall out, those challenges are the ones that are a little deflating for sure.
Oh, totally. Especially when you're
Mhm.
convinced that it makes perfect sense to you, and then you run the sequence or run the track or run the campaign, whatever, and
Mhm.
it's not what you expect. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what marketing is, a science. It's not like some soft. A lot of people treat it like a soft skill, but it's not. It's like
Mhm.
surgery, literally.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I know what you're talking about for sure. Um,
Yeah, I think the benefit is, how do you take those opportunities to grow something else out of them? Maybe it didn't land in this way, but
mhm.
can you not lose all of that opportunity for
Yeah.
development and make those pivots so it turns into something great eventually?
Oh, totally. Learning, you can never really fail if you use it as a learning opportunity. If you really,
Absolutely.
really, take note, really test what's working, test against something else. All you can do is just keep, learning. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So when you look ahead for the next year, 12 months to 24 months, what do you see to be the biggest growth transformation in your business and industry? As
Mhm.
well as what do you think is the biggest risk in your industry?
Mhm. Pharma's typically been a laggard when it comes to technology. I think that's pretty commonly known, and so that's to me the biggest source of transformation. I think we're in this pretty wild digital age where everything is moving so quick, and the technologies, the advancements are on an exponential path, much greater than they've ever been. And so pharma's finally catching up. I think they're finally realizing that the adoption of tech is an opportunity, when applied in the right ways. And I'm seeing more and more and more openness or want for tech-enabled solutions and whatnot. So for us, we're bringing a lot of AI. It's a broad word, but we're bringing AI into the places of, how do we make our team more elevated? The human element of what we do will never change,
Right.
but can we use AI technology to elevate what they do, make them more efficient, be more cost competitive? But we're also bringing AI backbones into some of the things that we produce. So when we think of things like booth activations or educational engagements, there's an opportunity to take those engagements just well beyond what they could have been when they're more traditionally linear and whatnot, without the ability of algorithmic programming and the AI abilities to kind of take them in any and all directions. And so that's definitely a source of transformation for us, and it's also the source of risk for us. And you can't we've always had this yes we can mindset,
Mhm.
and that's what's propelled our growth. But when you apply a yes we can mindset to new technology, you have to know that it aligns with back to your core competency. You have to know that you can and are prepared to wield it, because if you make some bad assumptions, that's where the risk comes from. And so you have to be ready to and prepared to integrate it in a strong way.
Absolutely, and, AI isn't just, "Let's get as much AI as we possibly can and let it run the show."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a massive misconception. AI is meant to, in my opinion, take away some of the grunt work, though it's important, and allow people to improve in their human to human skills so that they can actually
Mhm.
spend more time um, being more human in their communication and connecting with
Mhm.
people and truly understanding people, right? So that they can do their jobs better.
Mhm. Yeah.
When you say it's a little vague AI, it's 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 not vague. It's very specific.
Mhm.
So and this might be kind of throwing you off the loop, but like where do you see AI really helping your team, if you mind
Mhm.
sharing?
I think time effectiveness is the easiest one.
Hmm.
There's a lot of task-based things that can be done in a more expedited way when you use the power of different AI tools.
Hmm.
So when you think what we do is translate a lot of literature into something else, that translation component can be highly improved or sped up when you have a tool that's actually designed to do that and it's not a manual process.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the kind of first AI integration that we've really brought into the agency. And then I think the second is really thinking of design, user experience design of a program. Um, Trends that we follow are how do you customize and individualize things to the user. The
Hmm.
broad sweep one for all is not the way that learning or engagement should happen. And
Right.
so when you could have the power of a tool that then allows you to create these individualized pathways through this big web of all of your different materials and engagements and activations and educational resources and stuff, you can bring an individualized nature in a way that couldn't have been done before. So kind of two examples of ways that we really kind of seek to integrate. But I
Hmm.
think exactly like you said, this the specificity of how and who and what you do with it is so critically important because it needs to be done appropriately and well so that the right information, valid information, credible information is what's driving the pathway, not just this broad sweeping find information from anywhere I can find it.
Totally. Because at
Mm.
the end, humans don't change. We're still human. We still need to have conversations. We still need understanding. It's just the tools that we use may help
Mhm.
us improve. But at the end of the day, you still got to be effective in your role as an individual. And
Absolutely. I truly believe an agency is only as good as its people, and you need good people. People can be empowered with tools around them, but it's the people that's the heart of an agency for sure.
absolutely. And that actually leads me into my next question perfectly. So, how do, in terms of your people, right? How do you approach sales effectiveness? Now, maybe you don't consider they're not called salespeople. Maybe they're not called business development reps, for right because a lot of people they find that word sales is kind of like a dirty word, especially in a highly regulated, very
Mhm.
professional industry that you're in. So, how do you approach if you don't like the word sales, business development training and
Mhm.
development for both yourself and for your team?
Yeah, we definitely use business development. It's more aligned with us.
Hmm.
We take a relationship based approach. We intend to strive for a strategic partnership. So that's truly what represents us. And so when I think about hiring, supporting, onboarding new team members in that realm, there's kind of a couple arms that I perceive as very, very important. First, don't assume that someone knows how to engage your client base with what you do. You can bring someone on board who has really great relationship sales, business development skills, but they don't know your company. They don't know your solutions. They don't know how you differentiate. So
Hmm.
regardless of experience, you need to take the time to onboard. You need to
Hmm.
really have an immersive process for them to learn what is it that you are providing to your clients or your customers. What are you how are you discussing that and differentiating that and whatnot. And it takes time to do that, especially in a world where you have a very broad service offering like we do. The
Hmm.
second is mentorship. Again, regardless of expertise, length of time in a sales role or a business development role, I think mentorship is really, really important because you can do all the onboarding, but then it'll just die if you don't have a continuation from that. So we do a lot of pairing our seasoned individuals who have been with us a long time with someone who's just come on board, and they go together to discussions and meetings and whatnot, and there's an opportunity for initially some shadowing and then building to more observational style feedback for newer folks. And I think that's what really expedites their learning and their ability to pair what we do with our client needs.
Absolutely, and that's a huge gap. We're in the industry of training and development and business development training, and one of the gaps is kind of to your point. You can't assume that the person you're hiring knows. You cannot assume. You have to inspect everything you suspect.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
especially when it comes to business development, because a lot of a gap, and I don't assume that you have this gap, but a major blind spot, so to speak, is that a company will hire on a salesperson and explain what their goal is, what they need to do, but they're not being specific enough. They're not saying how much of whatever it is, how much of XYZ behavior do they
Yeah.
need to do? When do they need to do it? When does it need to be done by? Right. So,
Yeah.
so it's like we could all, sure, we got to go out and develop accounts, but how? How much outreach do you need to do a day, a week? How many conversations need to be scheduled a day, a week? Right. So, absolutely. I totally agree with the fact that, you can never assume that no matter how great the skill is, it still needs to, the better defined, the better
Mhm.
checklisted, uh, strategic, a list that people can be held accountable to and that can be reinforced. It makes everyone's life much easier. And also it can be tracked, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's so many people just measure the outcome, the final outcome of what they want to achieve, but you have to measure the process to get there, and you have to define what that process is. We're in a world where we can easily collect a lot of data, and that can help to define that for you. So exactly as you've said, like how much outreach is needed, how much conversion to the next stage in your sales cadence is needed, and that's from my perspective, even more important to measure than the final result because when you do all of those things, that's when the final result comes through. If you're just measuring the final result, you're forgetting that you probably could have seen this coming, either a good result or a bad result, earlier if you had measured the process along the way.
Totally. And what you're describing is, I'm sure you know this, but for some of our viewers, measuring outcomes, that's connected to KPIs, key performance indicators. But measuring outcomes, if you do that, you have no control of how you got to that outcome. So what
Hmm.
I believe you're talking about, Nicola, and tell me if I'm wrong, is we need to measure leading indicators, such as the
Absolutely.
specific behaviors that need to occur, the attitudes, the techniques, and the behaviors. How much do they need to do a day, a week, a month? When do they need
Hmm.
to do it? Where do they need to do it? What is the
Hmm.
right? What is the frequency? That way, once you start to track this behavior, you can then accurately forecast. Right?
Hmm.
Gap for leaders is that they don't can't accurately forecast revenue, profit, acquisition, whatever, because they're only relying on KPIs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think another thing is how do you train someone to input the right data? Because there's a human subjectivity to what you're putting in. So if you think of like a probability weighting that most of us use or have our teams input, there's a very large subjectivity to that product probability. And that
Yeah,
directly correlates to forecasting, like you've just
totally.
said. And so if you have to remember to train, well, what are the percentages of categories that should be used? And what is the definition of when each should be used? And then you're going to get better data, and that's going to allow you to better plan and have a good forward look for your organization.
Absolutely. A lot of people, especially on that subjective, anecdotal CRM entering information, maybe that's kind of what you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
all anecdotal. Is it the truth or not? We don't know. A lot of times,
Hmm.
people will use happy ears or, oh, it's definitely going to close. Oh, this is for sure is going to go somewhere. But unless there's some type of data to back that up,
Hmm.
rely on it, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, when you do hire salespeople, though, business development reps, sorry, what are some of the challenges that you have experienced so far?
Hmm. The most common one is probably aligning someone's experience with our scope of services and in our approach to relationship development. It's a very consultative approach. So, it's easy to pair up agency to agency. A lot of agencies do similar things, but ultimately it's the how they do them that provides that differentiated approach for clients in our world. Meducom's known for, meticulous attention to detail, airtight organization, timeliness and delivery. And that reputation really starts at the first interaction with the business development team. So I look a lot to attributes. I think you can bring someone up to speed in what you do, but the attributes of an individual, the values of an individual, does that pair with your core principles and values of an organization. And that's where I think you can find the greatest success, to answer your question in an inverse way. And so finding team members, that close alignment is certainly the challenge, but when we do, it really does drive our success.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, as I'm sure you can contest to this, you can't just rely on an interview or a resume.
Mhm.
That is not going to give you accurate predictability of
Mhm.
what the salesperson or business development rep is going to do. There's assessments that need to be done, conversations, understanding, how they're going to behave rather than what can they do. So,
Mhm.
yeah, some of I agree. A lot of the characteristics of an individual, maybe not directly related to, their industry, though obviously that's very important, especially in your industry. But do they have the characteristics? Are they motivated to grow? Are they
Mhm.
willing to take direction? Are they coachable? Are they trainable? Are they actually, how are they going to act in certain situations? Because, like with a lot of
Mhm.
business development people, as you know, they'll come to class, they'll say they understand what what you're telling them, they'll agree even, but then when the rubber hits the asphalt and they actually go to the field and have to do the behavior, sometimes they don't do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Do
Yeah,
you
a
ever s
one-hour interview isn't a great assessment. That's a very short period of time when you think about how much time someone within your walls. And so we have a super lengthy recruitment process, and
Absolutely.
it can be really painstaking on both sides. But ultimately, it's the right call, because it's
Oh, yeah.
exactly as we're talking about. Is you need to find the right person, and the long-term impact of hiring the wrong person is much greater than taking the time up front to find the right person.
Absolutely, it's better to hire slow. It's better to hire slow. Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. When thinking about your own leadership, go to that. So, on your own leadership, you're running a big team, you're juggling a lot of things, right? So, what's been the hardest adjustment that you've had to make as the company has grown?
Mhm. When you think about scale, and especially scale at a very fast pace, the alignment of your team's growth and the operational decisions that you make that pace with revenue growth is a challenge. Is something that's not easy to get perfectly right. Staying at the right pace, not too fast, not too slow. It's such a delicate balance. And so it's certainly an anchor point of learning for me. And I think what's come from it is thinking about I use a lot of metrics to guide decision making, where we have that baked into our core as an agency. But then, first you need to make sure that those metrics reflect the past, but are also very forward looking. They can't just show you the snapshot of what's behind you. They have to help to predict what's in front of you. And using that data is really, really important, but pairing it with intuition is certainly something that I think has to be done. We know our pipelines well, we know our organizations well, we know our industry well, and so you have to have two lenses when you're thinking about assessment and learnings. Is what is the data saying to me, and what is my intuition saying to me, and marrying those two assessments together is something that has helped with many of those difficult adjustments. Or I've learned in a way that maybe I got it wrong the first time, but I sure as heck didn't get it wrong the next time, because I've learned to pair and marry those together well.
And when you're leading a team, you're leading it. You know the business cold, but as you're bringing people on, they don't know as much as you, so you have to slow down. So
Hmm.
I'm sure a lot of leaders can totally relate to that. And that's
Hmm.
tough. That's tough
Yeah,
to be able to delegate tasks, trust people, and kind of slow down. Have you noticed that that's happened sometimes?
for sure. It's the right pace and the right people.
Yeah.
And sometimes those don't match up. Sometimes your pace needs to be faster, and you need to expedite decisions, and you don't necessarily have the time to go through as much diligence as you might want to. And then sometimes you get it right, and it's wonderful, and everything turns smooth, and just operationally everything's going great. So it's just continuous balance of those two things.
Heck yeah, it's a long game. It's a long game.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right. So, well, this is very helpful. So, if you could though give one piece, like just one piece of advice to an Ontario business owner who's just hit a growth ceiling, what would that be?
Mhm. I heard an interview once, and it was between two country leaders. So, and one was very experienced, one was early in their career, and they were having a discussion around running a country while also raising children. And the experienced leader said to the junior leader, you just get on with it. And I think that that's a mentality that I think is really, really important. It's easy to kind of duck and hide when things get challenging or stagnate or whatnot. And first you have to tell yourself, I need to get on with this. And then I think how you do that is, you know, your business, you know what worked. You were probably there in the early days of growth. So go back to that formula.
Mm.
Go back to what worked and reapply it. And I think that that's the point of change. You think, oh, we've evolved, we've changed, we've scaled, we're so much bigger now, we do things differently. But what fueled that first stage of growth is probably quite likely to fuel your next stage of growth. And so applying that in that at that stagnation point, I think is something that we've done over time. And you go back to the basics. Our basics are focus on the relationships, focus on the human connection, focus on who we know in our network, where we know we can broaden our network, and don't overstretch your core competencies. Don't say to yourself, okay, to grow, I now need to do something different or change or produce something new. If that's not aligned with your core competency, you will fail. And so when you're looking at building new competencies as a source of growth, build them, make them become core, and then apply them and scale them from there.
Heck yeah, I totally agree. I always say stick to the fundamentals. Sure, innovation
Mhm.
matters and that will continue to develop, period. But stick to the fundamentals. What are the
Mhm.
fundamentals of the business? Prioritize those. I totally agree. And of course, lean into your strengths. You can't do everything, right? Like you said, you can't do everything, but you know you're good. You can do some things really well. So lean into that.
Mhm.
Less is more.
Mhm.
Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. I think that's the other big part of it is, once you've grown, in the early days you have a smaller team and a few individuals who are making really big contributions, and then as you grow, you have a bigger team. But another piece that's really guided me is, you put your best people on your biggest opportunities. Don't use them to solve your problems. Put them on those biggest opportunities, because that's how you'll continue to scale and you'll continue to grow. They helped you drive them the first time, and they sure as heck can help you drive them the second time.
Love it. Amazing. Well, thank you
Mhm.
so much, Nicola. This has been a pleasure for all the people watching. Please listen up. These are some very good tips. And we are super excited to have this posted. And thank you for being a guest, Nicola.
Thanks for inviting me. It was nice to chat.
Alrighty. Bye bye.